Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 takes us on another wild ride with Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax, Rocket, and the adorable baby Groot. In this sequel, they'll face new challenges, unravel mysteries of the past, and groove to a fantastic 80s soundtrack while saving the galaxy once more. In Missouri, on planet Earth, in the year 1980, Meredith Quill is cruising in a car, enjoying some tunes on the radio alongside her boyfriend, whom she affectionately refers to as her spaceman. They make a stop behind a Dairy Queen and venture into the woods. Here, the man introduces Meredith to a tiny alien sapling, predicting it will spread across the area. The moment culminates in a kiss between them. 34 years later, the Guardians of the Galaxy, consisting of Peter Quill, Gamora, Drax, Rocket Raccoon, and Baby Groot, find themselves on a platform working to secure Anulax batteries for their current employers, the Sovereigns. Armed and ready, the Guardians prepare to confront the interdimensional creature known as the Obelisk. As the Obelisk descends, the Guardians leap into action, except for Groot, who is grooving to Mr. Blue Sky on a speaker arranged by Rocket. Meanwhile, the others are engaged in a fierce battle with the Obelisk. Groot becomes dismayed when Drax accidentally crashes onto the speaker. Recognizing that attacking the Obelisk from the outside is futile, Drax opts for an unconventional approach. He allows the creature to swallow him to slice it from the inside, but his efforts have no effect on the beast. Star-Lord spots a vulnerability on the monster's neck and instructs Rocket to attract its attention. With precision, Gamora slices the Obelisk's throat, ultimately defeating it and liberating Drax from inside. The Guardians return the batteries to the Sovereigns and have a meeting with their leader, Aisha. As a deal, the Sovereigns hand over Gamora's sister, Nebula, to the Guardians to take to Xandar and claim the reward. Before they depart, Aisha looks down on the Guardians, especially Peter, mentioning his mixed human and alien background, which she considers risky. The Guardians then leave, with Rocket sneakily taking some of the batteries for himself. While en route to the planet Xandar, the Guardians encounter a fleet of Sovereign drones pursuing them due to the stolen batteries, causing tension among the team. As the drones attack, Rocket attempts to guide the Milano toward a wormhole leading to another planet. Suddenly, another ship arrives, destroying the Sovereign drones, and a man aboard the ship gestures to the Guardians. They manage to evade the drones, but are forced to make an emergency landing on a nearby planet. While the Guardians inspect their crashed ship, the vessel that saved them lands, revealing its occupant to be Ego, who discloses that he is Peter's father. Ego is accompanied by his empathic assistant, Mantis. Meanwhile, on another planet, Yondu and his Ravager crew are struggling. Yondu spots his old friend, Stakar Ogord, who has banished Yondu for his involvement in child trafficking. Taserface, a Ravager, believes they need a new leader, and Kraglin, another member, starts questioning Yondu's leadership. The Sovereigns arrive, and Aisha approaches Yondu with a proposal. Peter is overwhelmed by the encounter with his father, Ego. Ego reveals that he had sent Yondu to retrieve Peter after his mother's death. However, Peter still struggles to understand why Ego had abandoned Meredith initially. Ego extends an invitation for Peter and his friends to visit his planet. Initially hesitant, Peter decides to go after Gamora convinces him. Peter, Gamora, and Drax accompany Ego and Mantis, while Rocket and Groot remain behind to repair the Milano and watch over Nebula. On Ego's ship, the trio engages in conversation with Mantis, who demonstrates her unique abilities by delving into their thoughts. She playfully reveals that Peter has romantic feelings for Gamora, which amuses Drax. Meanwhile, the Ravagers arrive at the forest where the Guardians had crash-landed. Most of them unwittingly walk into traps set up by Rocket until Yondu arrives with his Yaka arrow, controlled by his whistling. While the Ravagers manage to capture Rocket and Groot, Yondu hesitates when Taserface suggests apprehending Peter. Nebula intervenes by damaging the crest on Yondu's head to render him unconscious. She aligns herself with the Ravagers, and they take Rocket, Groot, and Yondu as their captives. Ego transports them to a planet that is essentially an extension of himself, as he is a celestial, and his consciousness serves as the planet's core. He reveals that he took on a human form to explore the galaxy and fell in love with Meredith during his visit to Earth. However, maintaining this connection with her would have drained his energy, so he couldn't stay with her. Peter remains resentful of Ego for abandoning Meredith. While engaging in their father-son conversation, Ego implores Peter to become the father Meredith would have wanted him to be. He proceeds to provide guidance on how to control and utilize his newfound powers. Aboard the Ravager ship, Taserface and his gang begin expelling those who still support Yondu, except for Kraglin, who watches in shock as his comrades are executed. Taserface brags about his fearsome reputation, but Rocket ridicules him because he finds his name funny. Nebula arrives and proposes that the Ravagers hand over their prisoners to the Kree to claim the bounties on their heads. She also makes additional requests, including a new robotic hand. Kraglin helps her find a ship, and she departs the Ravager vessel to search for Gamora. Mantis and Drax develop a connection, despite Drax repeatedly mentioning that he finds her appearance unattractive. Drax believes that their shared perceived unattractiveness is a positive aspect, as he found someone who loved him for who he is despite his appearance. Mantis hints at wanting to share something important with Drax, but Gamora interrupts the conversation, and Mantis decides to hold off on sharing for the moment, instead escorting them to their respective rooms. The Ravagers imprison Rocket and Yondu while taking Groot for their own amusement. Yondu shares his past as a Kree battle slave and explains that he kept Peter around because he was small enough to access tight spaces. Rocket and Yondu decide to escape together, enlisting Groot's help to fetch a prototype fin for Yondu's head. After overcoming some challenges, they succeed and eliminate the mutinous Ravagers. The trio, along with Kraglin, escape on a ship rigged to explode. Taserface informs Aisha of Yondu's location before perishing in the explosion. To reach Ego's planet, the group endures a series of 700 jumps. On Ego's planet, Peter tries to impress Gamora with his dance moves, but she struggles to express her feelings for him. Later, Nebula arrives in her ship and attacks Gamora. A fierce battle ensues, with Nebula gaining the upper hand. However, she reveals that her true desire was not to prove her superiority but to have a genuine sisterly relationship with Gamora. Nebula's past suffering at the hands of their father, Thanos, who mutilated her due to Gamora's success, fueled her resentment. The sisters then form an uneasy alliance and discover a cavern filled with numerous skeletons. Peter and Ego's relationship deepens as Ego shares a crucial revelation. He explains that as long as the planet is illuminated, Peter will maintain his newfound powers and eternal life. Mantis observes how Ego has gained significant influence over Peter since revealing this information. Concerned about Ego's true intentions, she hurries to wake up Drax and alert him to the situation. Rocket, Groot, Yondu, and Kraglin reach their destination and discuss their motivations. Rocket initially boasts about wanting to rescue Peter just to prove his superiority, but is silenced by Yondu, who sees through Rocket's tough exterior and recognizes his underlying fear. Together, they set out to confront Ego. Ego reveals his sinister plan to Peter. He intends to enact the expansion by spreading his influence across countless planets through seedlings. He impregnated women from these worlds to produce children, hoping they would inherit his celestial power. When they didn't, Ego had them killed, and their remains are the ones discovered by Gamora and Nebula. Peter, however, possesses the power Ego seeks. Ego also confesses to causing Meredith's fatal tumor, preventing the pain of being apart from her. Enraged, Peter opens fire on Ego. In response, Ego takes control of Peter and uses him to sow the seedlings, causing widespread devastation. To add insult to injury, Ego destroys Peter's Walkman and the cherished Awesome Mix Volume 2 left to him by his mother. Rocket, Groot, and Yondu join forces with Gamora, Drax, Nebula, and Mantis to confront Ego. They gathered on the ship and proceeded to the planet's core, recognizing it as the sole means to defeat Ego. However, they also face an attack from the Sovereigns who want to eliminate them. Mantis manages to put Ego to sleep while the Guardians deal with the Sovereign threat. They successfully fend off the Sovereigns and destroy their entire fleet using powerful lasers. Meanwhile, Rocket constructs a bomb using the stolen batteries, which Groot takes hold of and runs off with, despite Rocket's warnings not to press the wrong button, as it could result in their demise. Unfortunately, Mantis gets knocked out by a fireball, breaking her control over Ego and waking him up. As the rest of the group tries to find safety, Ego starts to engulf them. Peter, harnessing his celestial powers, continues his battle against his father. Peter engages in a battle with Ego's human form, but Ego's entire planetary self fights back. Groot locates Ego's brain in the core of the planet and sets the bomb to detonate in 5 minutes. Drax carries Mantis to the ship while Gamora and Nebula successfully return. Rocket selflessly gives his last spacesuit to Yondu, knowing he can only save either him or Peter. Gamora attempts to go back for Peter, but Rocket stops her to prevent losing another friend. Ego desperately pleads with Peter to halt the bomb, warning that it will render Peter just a regular human. Peter, however, accepts this fate and allows the bomb to detonate. Ego's human form disintegrates, and the planet begins to explode. Yondu swoops in and rescues Peter just in time. As they escape the planet's destruction, Yondu puts the suit on Peter to save him from the vacuum of space. Yondu, now exposed to the cold void, tells Peter that Ego was his biological father, but not his true dad. With tears in his eyes, Peter sadly watches Yondu succumb to the harsh conditions of space and die. The Guardians get ready to give Yondu a proper Ravager funeral. Kraglin offers Peter a Zune as a replacement for his lost Walkman, a gift Yondu had intended to give him. In return, Peter gives Yondu's arrow to Kraglin, believing it's what Yondu would have wanted. Nebula departs to pursue Thanos on her own, but not before reconciling with Gamora. Mantis chooses to remain with the Guardians. As Yondu's body drifts into space, they witness numerous other Ravager ships arriving to honor Yondu and pay their respects. In the end credits, there are 5 scenes. Kraglin of Foundry attempts to wield Yondu's arrow but accidentally impales Drax without causing significant harm. Stakar forms a new team in honor of Yondu, including members like Martin X Tanaga, Charlie, 27, Starhawk, and Mainframe. Aisha possesses a birth pod containing a male being named Adam, addressing questions from her fellow Sovereign. Groot has matured into a teenager and playfully mocks Peter. Finally, in Stan Lee's cameo, he converses with the Watchers about his past adventures, but they eventually grow bored and depart. And the movie ends here. Thank you for watching, and I highly recommend watching the entire movie as it is incredibly enjoyable. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel, so you can stay updated and receive notifications whenever we upload new videos.